Hey, everyone. Mondays with Mel is happening in less than 60 seconds. So go ahead, do me a favor, share this to your pages, share this with your friends, tag someone that you be tuned in. And if you've not already subscribed to the Matter of Focus social media pages, go ahead and do that before we get started. You can do that at Facebook and Instagram. I'll see you in a minute. Hey, everyone. Mondays with Mel is happening in less than 60 seconds. So go ahead, do me a favor, share this to your pages, share this with your friends, tag someone that you be tuned in. And if you've not already subscribed to the Matter of Focus social media pages, go ahead and do that before we get started. You can do that at Facebook and Instagram. I'll see you in a minute. Hey, everyone. Mondays with Mel is happening in less than 60 seconds. So go ahead, do me a favor, share this to your page. Hey, everyone. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. It's Mel Preston, your neighborhood therapist, licensed mental health therapist, and the relationship architect. I need you to go ahead and tap in. It's Monday night. I know it's 9:30 Eastern. It's 8:30 Central. But I need you to tap in. I need you to tap in. So um, if you're online right now, I need you to go ahead and share it to your platform, share it to people that might need to tune in because tonight I am going to be talking again about emotional availability. That was one of the first topics I talked about on Mondays with Mel. And I found out later that the audio was doing something a little funky. So I wanted to come back on and talk about emotional availability just a bit. So like I said, go ahead and share. Because tonight, what we are talking about is, are you emotionally available? Are you emotionally available? So I'm going to give you guys a minute to go ahead and share it out. Mondays with Mel. Mondays with Mel is where I talk about everything from the scope of relationships that's at the intersection of mental health. That's what we talk about here on Mondays with Mel as someone who deals with couples. Primarily, I spend a lot of time talking about these topics, and I know everyone isn't necessarily ready for therapy. So, the platform of Mondays with Mel is to empower, to equip, to educate. All of those that tune in. So whether you are tuning in on Facebook or on my profile page, or if you're tuned in via the Matter of Focus Facebook page, or if you are on YouTube. So if you're more of a YouTube person, make sure that you go ahead and like the YouTube channel. It's also the official underscore Mel Preston, I believe. I could be wrong on that. But just search it on YouTube, and I'll come back and post a link so that you can share, and subscribe there. So, like I said, tonight we're going to go ahead and get started. This is a redo, and it's live. I am actually live, not pre-recorded live, but real live tonight. So if you have questions, make sure that you go ahead and place them in the chat. Go ahead and place those in the chat for me. And also let me know if for whatever reason you can't hear something. Because I want to be sure that you guys can hear. Okay. So are you emotionally available or not? Are you emotionally available? So let me ask this question. Have you ever been in a relationship with someone and things are good? Things are good, you have a great time, you go out, you have fun, you enjoy each other, but then when it comes to learning more about them, or when there is an issue that arises, they tend to maybe shut down. Or have you ever had a friend who you guys were good? You guys were good. Everything was fine. Everything was fine. And then there was a problem. There was an issue, and nobody talked about the issue. You just, maybe the friend ghosted you. Maybe the friend ghosted you. You ghosted the friend. Have you ever been the person who's been in a relationship, and when when there were things that came up that were um challenging, when challenges came into the relationship, you were just kind of ready to bounce. You were either ready to bounce, or you didn't necessarily want to talk through it. Maybe you shut down. So tonight the question is, are you emotionally available? Are you emotionally available? So, somebody, let me know in the chat. Do you think you are emotionally available? Do you think you are emotionally available? Are you emotionally available? So um let's start kind of with the terms, right? And again, I previously came on and did this segment on Mondays with Mel. However, I recognize that the audio was terrible. So I want to make sure that we cover everything, and that you know these terms, so that you have something that you can use. Okay. So let's before we can even get into whether or not you are emotionally available, let's talk about what it means to be emotionally available, right? So here is the definition. So to be emotionally available means that there is a willingness, and there's a willingness to be open and vulnerable in how we communicate, and how we connect, right? So let me say that again. So, what it means to be emotionally available is a willingness to be open and vulnerable in how we communicate and how we connect. Okay. So, we're willing to be vulnerable in how we communicate and how we connect. Now, what does it mean to be vulnerable? Being vulnerable means that we are capable or susceptible to being, get this, damaged or hurt. Like, listen to that. Being vulnerable means that I am capable or susceptible to being damaged or hurt. In other words, I am capable of being exposed, capable of being naked, capable of being unguarded, of being unprotected, of being wide open, right? I think all of us, when we were younger, you would hear the older generation say, "Oh, their nose is wide open," right? Because when someone was dating someone, and they were just so in love, and all the things, the older people would say, oh, his nose is wide open, or her nose is wide open. And so in essence, that's what it means to be vulnerable. It means we're open to being exposed. So to be emotionally vulnerable means that I am willing to be emotionally exposed. I'm willing to be emotionally exposed. Now let's look at the opposite. Opposite of that. And now, this could be you. The opposite of vulnerable would be guarded, protected, um, secure. So someone who is emotionally guarded or not emotionally available would be someone who is guarded, right? So what do we get when a person is not emotionally someone is not emotionally available? We get someone who's guarded. We get someone whose walls are up. We get someone who is defensive, right? This is a person who's always in a defensive posture. A defensive posture. So all of these people who are out here like, I'm good, I'm good, can't nobody hurt me, all the things, that is an emotionally unavailable posture. That means we're emotionally unavailable, right? And so here's the deal. And just make sure I'm I am trying to check trying to check to be sure that there are no questions or comments on both pages as I'm moving forward. But just so we're clear, when you meet someone who is emotionally callous or who is emotionally hard, the person did not just that person didn't just wake up like that, right? That's not what happens. The person didn't just wake up like that, right? So if someone is emotionally unavailable or emotionally callous, what that means is somewhere along the way, the safety that needed to be in place for them to be emotionally available or emotionally vulnerable, somewhere along the way, that vulnerability was lost. Somewhere along the way, the safe space was taken away. Somewhere along the way, their safe space was taken away. That safe space that's needed for us to be emotionally vulnerable, it's missing somehow, right? So never, don't ever think that when you're talking to someone who comes across as emotionally callous or who isn't necessarily as in touch with their feelings, their emotions as you would like them to be, don't think they just woke up like that. Somewhere along the way, there was a breach in their safe space, right? There was a breach in their safe space. All right. So, real quick. We're going to talk about three signs that you or someone you know might not be emotionally available. Okay. We ready? Are we ready? All right. So, here is sign number one. Sign number one that a person may not be emotionally available is when a person is unwilling or unable to communicate their feelings. All right, let me say that again. So, sign number one that you or someone you know, someone you're in a relationship with, may not be emotionally available is an unwillingness or being unable to communicate true feelings. Right? So what does this look like? What does this look like? This is angry when we're frustrated. This is when someone is crying and they can't really explain why. They're angry. You know they're angry. They know they're angry. However, they're unable to articulate in words why they are upset. They're unable to share with you their emotions and their needs. And instead, they cry. And maybe they even storm off. Maybe they shut down. This would be someone who is emotionally unavailable. All right. So we got that. That's sign number one, is that a person who is unwilling or unable to communicate their true feelings. All right. We got that. Number two, they're unwilling to fight for the relationship. Now, this one can look different. This one can look several different ways. One way is when you're having a disagreement with this person. And I also want you to keep in mind this can be true in your platonic relationships. This can be true among girlfriends. This can be true among homeboys. It can also be true in a romantic relationship. But when a person is unwilling to fight for the relationship, so let's look at this in two different instances. First instance, let's look at this in the compass of a friendship. And sometimes you know that a person is not emotionally available because they're not willing to fight for the friendship. In other words, they have a strong cutoff game. Their cutoff game is strong. Like, have you ever had a friend who their cutoff game was on 10? I mean, they quick to slice dice, quick to let a friendship go, get offended, fall out with the person, and they just cut them off. That cancel game is strong. Have you ever had a friend who was like that? Matter of fact, have you ever been the person who had the strong cutoff game? Someone did something that you didn't agree with, that upset you. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe you don't even know, but you made up something and all of a sudden you're no longer talking to them. Cutoff game is cutoff game is strong. Cutoff game is strong, right? That is someone who is unwilling. They're unwilling to stay in the ring and fight for the relationship, to fight for the friendship. That's someone who's not emotionally available. They're not tapped in. And sometimes, y'all, it's not even their fault. Sometimes it's because of where they've been, what they've gone through. It's due to life. It's due to familial background, where they grew up, the different challenges they've had. Maybe they didn't grow up knowing what it was to be able to express how they felt. Or maybe they um were told that it didn't matter. Hey, Sarinthia. Maybe it was that they never grew up knowing that it was okay to express how they feel about things. Right? So even when you're looking at your friendships, don't be so quick with the cutoff game. Be willing to at least try and understand why something is happening, why there's something wrong. Be willing to stay and do what? Be emotionally vulnerable and provide a safe space for your friend, right? So, all right. So, if we're looking at the second sign that a person may not be emotionally available, you know, it is being unwilling to fight for a relationship. Now, we've looked at that in the context of friendships because, again, being emotionally available can be across the board. Your cutoff game can be strong in your relationship with your significant other. Your cutoff game can be strong with your family. It can be strong with your friends. Either way, something about that says that you're not as emotionally available as you could be. All right. Or maybe as you should be. So let's look at this one, the unwilling to fight for the relationship. Um, let's look at this in terms of a romantic relationship. So a person who is not emotionally available, who's in a relationship, in a romantic relationship, that is unwilling to fight for the relationship, here's what that would look like. When you have a disagreement, they shut down. They just stop talking. Like, they're mad. They're simmering. As a matter of fact, like I said, it could be you. We don't know. But they shut down. They threaten to leave. Get into an argument, get into a fight, get into a disagreement, and the first thing they want to do is run. They are run, Forrest, run. They are out the door. Whether or not they walk down to a neighbor's house, a homeboy's house, she left and went to her girlfriend's house. She left, went to her mama's house. Either way, there when things get tough, when there are disagreements, they do not stay. They leave. Or they threaten to leave. They either actually physically leave or they threaten to leave. And that's always the threat. Well, if you don't want me here, I'll just leave. Or they get very passive aggressive about it and somewhat gaslight you to say, well, I knew you didn't want to be here anyway. So why don't you just leave? So then they turn it around, they flip it, and they turn it onto you. So this is sign number 2 that you, because now I definitely want you to put yourself into these shoes, because a lot of us, I've even been told a time or many in the past that my cutoff game has been strong. My cancel game has been strong. So I'm preaching to the choir. Even as the therapist, I'm still preaching to the choir, right? Because sometimes we are unwilling to place ourselves in an emotionally vulnerable space with certain people. But it's important that we recognize it. You can't have a healthy relationship. We can't have successful relationships if we are not willing to have a level of emotional vulnerability. All right. So this is more of a self-check for us all. Okay. So let's look at number 3. Now, number 3, third sign, and then we're out of here. But third sign that a person or you might not be emotionally available. Okay, let me come in. Let me come in close. Let me come in close for this one. I almost feel like I should whisper it. Sign number 3 that a person may not be emotionally available. They prefer sex over intimacy. Okay. They don't mind smashing the homie. They prefer sex over intimacy. They're not sticking around to the next morning. They're not kissing you on the mouth. They're not doing the cuddles and all the things. It's hit it and quit it. That's literally what it is. All right. So listen, yeah, they don't want a deep connection. Because in order to have a deeper connection, that would say I'm willing to open myself up emotionally. So that means it's not just sex, it's an emotional bond. Like I'm connected emotionally, right? And so and we may want to think this happens more with men versus women, but I don't think that's necessarily true. I think we're even. I think women are just as likely to prefer not to be emotionally engaged when it comes to sex as men are. If we're not willing, if we're afraid to be emotionally vulnerable. And so sometimes we want we want sex, right? But we don't want the deep connection. We don't want you in here. We don't want you in the heart. We don't want you to have that amount of access. Because guess what? We don't want to be hurt. And think about what I was saying in the beginning. In order to be emotionally vulnerable, and knowing that vulnerability means willing basically willing to put oneself in danger. Like, I am willing to place myself in a position in which I may get hurt. That's what it means to be emotionally vulnerable. And many of us, we are not willing to place ourselves in positions with people to get hurt, because we've been down that road before. We have traveled down the road. We've got the t-shirt and the mug to match, right? So again, I say, listen, I am preaching to the choir as I share this with you all, um because it is you cannot build healthy relationships without a level of emotional vulnerability. So if you find that you are someone who backs away easily, your cutoff game is strong. You're quick to cut people off. You're quick to delete numbers and friends out of your phone. You're quick to um, stop talking to people that you've been friends with for years. You may want to check your level of emotional availability. And if you find, or even if you're in a relationship, I want you to ask yourself, if you are in a romantic relationship, I want you to ask yourself, does your partner have access to all of you? That's the question. Does your partner have access to all of you? Like, all the parts of you, the good, the bad, the ugly, the worries, the concerns, the past, all of it. Does your partner have full access to you? Or do you realize there are parts of you that you have tucked away, that you have protected from those who are around you? Those are the questions. Does your partner have all of you? Does your partner have access to all of you? And if the answer is no, if your partner does not have access to all of you, how can they have a fair shot to love you? You know, that's the question I often ask couples, or when I'm doing individual sessions with two partners. How does your partner even have a fair shot? It's not even a fair fight. It's not going to be a fair fight if your partner does not have access to your entire emotional space. If there are still parts and pieces of you that your partner doesn't know, isn't privy to, how can they love you completely? So number one, you cheat yourself and you cheat your mate. So I want you to think about that the next time you think about just walking away. The next time there's a disagreement, and instead of staying and talking it out, you just shut down, or you leave, or you just say it's nothing, or you just try to ignore it. You don't give the person a fair chance. You don't give your friends a fair chance. If you're not willing to share with your friends um that in that emotionally vulnerable way, they don't have access to you. It may be difficult to be a good friend to someone who you only know bits and pieces of. So don't be that person. Don't be the person who those who are supposed to be in your inner circle, right? And I'm not talking about, just every Joe Blow, right? Not every Tom, Dick, and Harry. I'm talking about those people who are in your circle, in your community of support, right? Are we allowing those people, are we allowing ourselves to lean into those relationships? Are we allowing ourselves to be vulnerable in the spaces that actually provide safety? Like the next time you think about why you shut down or why you don't share your feelings with your spouse or with your friends, think about these questions. Is it that they have proven that they can't be trusted with your feelings, or have you even given them a chance? And now here's the truth, and I'll end with this because here's the truth. Even those who are in our inner circle at times can mismanage your emotions. All right, so let me say that again. Even people who are in your inner circle, even those who are close to you that you really do life with, every now and then, even those individuals can mismanage your emotions. That doesn't mean you just throw them away. Even your significant other, sometimes your significant other may mismanage your emotions. Why? Because none of us are perfect. And the same grace and the same life that's life in us is life in everyone else, as well. So before we just, wash our hands of people, especially those who have been in our inner circle, at least try to get an understanding of of how they mismanaged your emotions. Now, if they have proven that they can't be trusted with your emotions, then okay. Then maybe what you're doing is protecting your peace, protecting your mental space, and making sure that you take care of here. But make sure that's the case. Make sure that you're not just shutting down and not willing to stay in the ring to allow that emotional vulnerability just because you're scared. Don't go through life scared. We can never fully know the extent of love in life if we're always living afraid to be vulnerable, being afraid to openly love and to love hard. And I know it can be scary, but don't give up. And if there are people in your life who are providing safe space, um, they are holding space for you to lay it all down emotionally, lean into it. Lean into it. All right. So, does anyone, you guys have any questions? If you do, place them in the chat. And if I don't see them now, I'll definitely come back to them because I think right now I can only see one page. And make sure you share this out because there are a lot of us who, y'all, our cutoff game is strong. I mean, we cut people off quick. We let go of relationships. We're letting go of people. And yes, we should protect our mental space. We should have boundaries. But make sure that if you're cutting people off, make sure it's for the right reason. And it's not because you're simply afraid to be vulnerable. All right. So again, those three signs that somebody might not be emotionally available. Number one, they're unwilling or unable to communicate their true feelings. Number two, they're unwilling to fight for the relationship. And number three, they prefer sex over intimacy. They not kissing you in the mouth. All right. So those are the three signs. Um, and yeah, I will see you guys next Monday. Make sure if you have a topic you want me to cover, send it to me in my DMs. That's fine. Send it to me in my DMs or put it in the chat and just let me know what topics you want to have covered. All right. So have a great rest of the Monday night and I'll see you soon. Bye.